to the brain. So the actual glucose goes to the brain tissue. All the other parts of the body that are needing to get ready are using alternative fuels, mainly fatty acids. Does that make sense as to what glucose sparing means? Okay. The norepinephrine, this one triggers vasoconstriction. Anytime you hear the term vaso, let that trigger the term vessels, okay? The blood vessels. So it is going to cause the blood vessels to constrict. Now, what we get from this, the blood glucose and then circulating free fatty acids are going to the areas of the body that need them. So, we're going to have the use of fuels that are available. They can pull it from the fat cells, they can pull it from the liver if needed, they can pull it from muscles if it's available, okay? They're looking for every source to either have the glucose ready to go to the brain or have the ability to make the glucose, convert it, most likely. So this would be allowing the body to prepare for fight or flight and not disrupt the brain's supply of glucose. Because the only molecule the brain can use is glucose. So it has to have it. The rest of the body can get it from alternative methods. The cortex. The cortex plays a major part in our endocrine system. It's going to have 3 layers. They're termed zonas. Zone. Okay, pretty much what that means. The cortex produces corticosteroids. What comes to mind when you hear corticosteroids? Anything? Prednisone, cortisone, hydrocortisone. Any of these kind of like come to mind when you hear that term cortico or corticosteroids or steroids? Okay. Now, Marlisha, the cholesterol. Now, what we're going to find for some of the hormones, cholesterol is backbone. It's like what gives rise to some of those. Not so much the ones from the adrenal cortex, but some that we're going to find in another system. Okay? So, what types of, when we say synthesized from cholesterol, that's because we're looking at a carbon backbone. Okay? Now, what do you think of things that happen in the body when you hear stuff like the cortisone or the hydrocortisone or the prednisone, for example? What types of effects do those have in the body?
Interact with allergies?
All right, so if you're having maybe an allergic reaction and you're given that prednisone shot maybe, is that what you're thinking? Okay. But what does it do in the body? It's, well, definitely it's going to suppress the immune system. And how is that going to affect that allergic reaction? Well, if we're thinking allergic reaction, is it going to increase it or decrease it? Now, what about inflammation? What do we tend to hear people say they got a shot of? If they had, I don't know, their knee hurt or their back hurt or their hip hurt or something. Cortisone. We hear them say, oh, they gave me a shot of cortisone. Because what did it do to the inflammation? It reduced it, supposedly. All right? Yes, similar things are happening from these hormones released. So, there's a ton of them, actually, that are in these 3 zones, but there's about 5 of them that are the most significant in the body. They fall into one of these 3 categories. They can be a mineralocorticoid, minerals. Those are my electrolytes. Anything that has the plus or the minus. Like, for example, potassium, that's a plus. Calcium is plus. Sodium, plus. Do we have anything that has the negative in our body? Potassium is plus.
I guess maybe
The chlorine. What? Yeah, the chloride. Did y'all know that we have processes in our body that are using chlorides? Oh yeah, nerve conduction. It's really cool. Glucocorticoids. Glucose, okay? And then other organic fuels, i.e. the fatty acids. The stuff that's contained in the fat cells that can be pulled and used for energy. The sex steroids, they're going to be the ones for developmental and reproductive functions. So all of the ones that come from the cortex, they're going to fall into one of those 3 categories. But we have, like we said, about 5 that are significant, some extremely significant. The layers of the cortex, the zonas, okay, we say that it is the glomerulosa zone, fasciculata zone, and the reticularis zone. Does that bring to mind any terms that you've learned previously? Fascicles. Okay? Very similar to what you think of with the muscle and the nerve. Glomerulosa isn't really one. We've kind of mentioned it before. It's where I talk about something that was in what looks like a ball type structure. Okay? That was a glomerulus. All right? Reticularis. Does that bring to mind anything? Reticular fibers. Because we have 3. All right? We have our collagen, we have our elastic, and we have our reticular. Those are the 3 fibers of the body. The outer zone is the glomerulosa. The middle fasciculata and the inner reticularis. It is giving a description of the tissue type. Now, when you look at that adrenal gland, it's hard to believe that there is so much that's present in that little triangle, but it is. The outer layer, remember how I said, glomerulus, round, okay? The cells are in round clusters. They are the source. So in other words, this zone is the source of my minerals. My minerals. The most important one that comes from that zone is aldosterone, which we're going to talk about. In the middle layer, fasciculata, because of the structure that's present, it looks like it's a foam that's present. Looks very foamy. All right? This one, my glucocorticoids. And then it's also my androgens. Ever heard of those? In relationship to what? To thinking of testosterone, steroids, or reproductive function. Okay? The inner layer, reticularis, because of the way that it looks, because when you have reticular fibers, they look like this. They look like they form a huge, wavy, spider webby type looking branching network for reticular fibers. My glucocorticoids, my androgens, which are going to be sex steroids. So these three zones, they are going to have the ability to control a lot of what happens in the body. Now, from the glomerulosa, the aldosterone, this one, my most significant mineralocorticoid from that region. This is the only place in the body that I get this mineral, I should say. Look what it deals with. Blood pressure. Anybody in here know of anyone that might have blood pressure problems? High or low? High. High? High? Anybody in here not know of someone without a blood pressure problem? You don't know anybody with a blood pressure problem? Okay. For the most part, we're all going to know somebody with a blood pressure problem. For the most part, it tends to be blood pressure that is too high. Under normal circumstances, the body has the ability to control blood pressure with negative feedback. Sometimes we need other help controlling blood pressure. Aldosterone is when blood pressure drops. Why is high blood pressure a problem?
Cause a heart attack or a stroke.
But why? What is it doing to those